The throne room of the Zathari matriarchy fell silent as Queen Velmora's voice echoed through the crystalline halls. Her 4 eyes blazed with purple fury, her chitinous crown reflecting the light of a dozen alien suns streaming through the palace windows. Before her stood Jackson Hayes, a human diplomat who had arrived on Zathar Prime 3 standard years ago. "Your Majesty," Jackson began, his voice steady despite the 100 royal guards pointing plasma lances at his chest. "I can explain." "Explain?" The Queen's mandibles clicked furiously. "My daughter, Princess Lisavel, heir to the greatest empire in the Andromeda sector, calls a human her husband. A species we discovered barely a decade ago, still crawling out of their single solar system." Lisa stepped forward from behind a pillar, her violet carapace shimmering with bioluminescent patterns that indicated both defiance and determination. Unlike her mother's more insectoid features, Lisa's genetic lineage had been modified for diplomatic purposes. Her face almost humanoid, though her silver eyes and the delicate antennae gave away her true nature. "Mother, please," Lisa began. "Silence!" Velmora's roar shook the very foundations of the palace. "I sent you to assess the human colony on Kepler 442b, not to bond with one of them." Jackson squeezed Lisa's hand, a gesture that made several guards hiss in disgust. "Your Majesty, with respect, what Lisa and I share is beyond politics or species. We chose each other." The Queen descended from her throne, her 12-foot frame towering over Jackson. Despite every instinct screaming at him to run, he held his ground. This was humanity's greatest strength, he'd learned, the ability to stand firm when logic demanded retreat. "Chose each other?" Velmora's laugh was like grinding metal. "Humans live barely a century. My daughter will exist for millennia. What future could you possibly offer her?" "The same future any partnership offers," Jackson replied. "Companionship, growth, love. Just because our lifespans differ doesn't mean our time together is meaningless." "Meaningless?" The Queen's voice dropped to a dangerous whisper. "I have watched empires rise and fall. I have seen species go extinct. And you dare speak to me of meaning?" Lisa pulled away from Jackson and faced her mother. "He saved my life, Mother. When the Krovar raiders attacked the human colony, when my diplomatic shuttle crashed in their territory, every other species representatives fled, but Jackson stayed. He fought for me with nothing but primitive kinetic weapons and that insane human stubbornness you all mock." "I had heard of this incident," Velmora admitted, her anger cooling slightly. "The report said a human fought off 20 Krovar warriors." 17, Jackson corrected. "But who's counting?" "Do not jest with me, human!" The Queen's fury reignited. "You took advantage of my daughter's gratitude. I fell in love with him, Mother." Lisa's voice rang clear and strong. "Not because he saved me, but because of what he showed me afterward. In the 3 years we've worked together, I've seen humans accomplish what should be impossible. They terraform planets in decades that would take us centuries. They innovate technology through trial and error rather than waiting for perfect calculations. They bond with other species without decades of diplomatic protocols." Jackson added quietly, "We're stubborn, Your Majesty. Stubbornly hopeful, stubbornly loyal, and yes, stubbornly in love when we find someone worth fighting for." Velmora studied the human before her. She had ruled for over 2,000 years, had negotiated with hundreds of species, had seen the patterns of civilizations repeat themselves endlessly. But humans were different. They shouldn't have survived first contact with galactic civilization. Their technology had been primitive, their understanding of physics laughable, their social structures chaotic. Yet here they were, barely 10 years later, with colonies across 3 sectors and diplomatic relations with 40 species. They learned faster than anyone thought possible. They adapted to any environment. And apparently, they loved just as fiercely as they fought. You understand, the Queen said slowly, that if I accept this union, the entire Zethari matriarchy will be in uproar, that countless nobles will see this as a weakness, that other species will question our judgment? Yes, Jackson replied simply. And you believe your love is worth this political chaos? Jackson looked at Lisa, at the being who had shown him that the universe was far more wondrous than Earth had ever imagined, who had taught him her language, her culture, her dreams, who had stood by him when the human colonial administration had called him a traitor for loving an alien. Your Majesty, humans have a saying, love conquers all. We've fought wars over it, written countless stories about it, built and destroyed civilizations in its name. It's probably our most dangerous and most powerful trait. So yes, I believe it's worth it. Velmora was silent for a long moment. Then, something unexpected happened. She laughed, a genuine, amused laugh that startled every guard in the room. My daughter chose well, the Queen admitted. Only a human would be foolish enough to face a Zethari queen and speak of love as a weapon. She turned to Lisa. You are certain of this choice? This human will be dust long before you even reach middle age. Lisa's bioluminescent patterns shifted to the colors of joy and certainty. Then, I will treasure every moment I have with him. Isn't that what makes life precious, Mother? Not its length, but its meaning? The Queen sighed, a sound like wind through caverns. Very well, but understand this, Jackson Hayes of Earth. You may have won my daughter's heart, but you must now win the respect of an empire. Can your human stubbornness handle that? Jackson grinned, that peculiar human expression that showed teeth, a gesture of threat in most species, but one of happiness in his own. Your Majesty, my people went from inventing flight to landing on our moon in 66 years. We turned our single world into a spacefaring civilization in less than a century. Winning respect? That's just Tuesday for us. Velmora shook her massive head, but there was a hint of admiration in her ancient eyes. Humans, she muttered. The universe was so much simpler before your kind showed up. As guards lowered their weapons and Lisa embraced Jackson, the Queen returned to her throne. She would face the political storm coming her way. She would weather the criticism from her advisors. Because in Jackson's defiant stance and Lisa's unwavering love, she had seen something she thought lost to her millennia ago, hope, and if stubborn, short-lived humans could teach an ancient queen anything, perhaps the universe still had surprises left after all. The end.